Is your accuracy absolute garbage like mine? Well then, you might want to try a Kontrol Freek. By the way, full disclosure, I'm not paid by, I'm not endorsed, and I wasn't asked by Kontrol Freek to actually do this video, nor was I given a free product. I've ordered them. I'm doing this video because people out there, you may be like me, you may have horrible accuracy. 7 years ago when I first started doing Call of Duty videos on COD 4, my accuracy was horrible then. It hasn't improved in 7 years. And you can imagine as you get older, your reaction speed and everything else like that slows down. You need every piece of assistance you can get, whether it's like whatever the case may be. And so I thought, okay, fine. You know, I've never ever used these things. I've only used them both, you know, over the last 3 days, here and there when my son's not playing and he let me use it. And I gotta say, Kontrol Freek, it absolutely is impacting my game in a good way. Not just with the accuracy, but just in how the actual analog sticks feel. The rubber used on it, nice, man. It's nice and sort of sticky. Not sticky like, oh my god, my thumb is stuck on them. But you don't slide. If you're like me, like I get sweaty palms, I get really geared up, and I find now my left analog stick, the one that you use for sprinting, I'm finding it feels like my thumb is slipping off. And it kind of is, like it's like just slippery. But when you use the actual Kontrol Freek, the rubber on it, very, very kind of sticky. Your thumb is just like stuck on there. It's just stuck on there and it ain't moving and it's not sliding, which I like. So I've actually ordered low profile for my left now, which I paid for by myself, and then the other ones, like the normal accuracy improving ones for the right one. And I've used it for dome. So you can get convex or concave. Concave is the ones where it's kind of like dips in, sort of like what normal Xbox, you know, controller analog sticks are like. And then the convex, which is when it bows out, like kind of like a dome. Well, let's say dome. That's probably the best way to describe it. I think that's how they describe it. Like old school PS3 controllers. And that's what I'm used to. I like that. Some people like whatever you want. Doesn't really matter. You can get either or for your controllers, but I've got dome for both. One low profile because you don't really need it high in terms of your run stick, your analog stick, obviously. I just don't want my thumb slipping off. And then I got the high one on the right, and I'll tell you right now, it absolutely helps with my accuracy. I should know I am the most inaccurate player ever, so I decided to actually use the ICR in some games with the actual red dot or whatever it is, you know what I mean, it's not the red dot, but one of the scopes, and see if I can actually tune in my accuracy. And I'm just gonna say, if you're like me or like a lot of people, when you see someone sponsored by a product, and you see all these other Call of Duty gamers out there promoting Kontrol Freek, but you know that they're sponsored, you're like, okay, are they just saying it's good because they're sponsored or paid for or whatever, you know what the case may be? Well, I'm not affiliated with them in the slightest bit. So you can believe me. And again, just because it's working for me doesn't mean it's going to work for you. I don't have good accuracy. Maybe some of you don't like it, but I'm, you know, for a doubter, I was a doubter. I had no interest in it. And now that I'm using it, I'm like, wow, as soon as I used my son's for 1 day, I went online and I ordered 2 sets, the low profile and the normal aim assisting or the accuracy improving one. Plus I also got grip because my hands get sweaty a lot, and I'm finding that even with the hard controllers, the default PS4 controller, I'm hoping that grip will help as well. So how do they work? I know some of you guys, this may be fairly obvious to you, but for those of you that don't know why they actually help in accuracy, you got to think about this. When you have a small stick, now for me, you also have to know that I panic knife and I overcompensate. So when I'm actually going against an enemy, when it pops up like in team deathmatch, free for all, or anything where it's like sort of high intensity, when I see an enemy, I get jerky, I overcompensate. So if he's moving or tracking or sliding or strafing or whatever, and I'm trying to track, if I see them, I tend to overmove the stick. Like I move it too much because I'm, you know, like I'm like trying to do like a twitch reaction, or I'm just like, oh my god, I got caught with my pants down. So I'm trying to move it and I end up oversteering. Then I got to bring it back and I'm doing it the opposite, the other way too much. What happens when you're using a taller extension on your stick, using the Kontrol Freek, is that you're going to do the same thing. It's like kind of motor memory or whatever, you know, muscle memory or whatever it's called. So you're going to do the same thing. I can't change that. I still panic knife. It annoys the crap out of me, but that's what I do. And I also compensate when I'm trying to hone in on someone. So what happens is I'm doing the same movements, but because the stick is taller, you actually, to do the same extension, like from far left to far right, the movement on a short stick is much less. So when you don't have a Kontrol Freek on, like, you know, like myself, and you move it, you're moving a lot more extreme. When you extend that stick up, like you do with the Kontrol Freek, you're doing the same movement, but because it takes a lot more like movement, you actually physically have to move it a lot more from left to right to get the same movement. So it actually minimizes the amount of oversteering and allows you to sort of hone in on that and become more accurate by extending the stick itself. You just got to get used to it. You've got to adjust also the sensitivity. You got to find your sensitivity, because really, I mean, with that exaggeration, if you wanted, you might feel like it's too slow, so you may have to increase the actual sensitivity. You may be playing on a higher sensitivity, so make sure you keep that in mind as well. It's not just adding the stick and then playing. Personally, for me, I'm actually playing on the same sensitivity. I like the sensitivity. I don't want to overcompensate. I find it's still exaggerating if I'm doing that, and maybe a little bit too fast. Maybe I've got to learn. I still have some learning to do on this thing, but either way, that's the way it works. And, you know, low profile on the other one is just on the left stick. I just want so that my finger doesn't slip off. That Kontrol Freek, though, the tall one, if you're inaccurate like I am, you should at least give it a shot. They're not that expensive. I'll put a link in the description, just a generic link. It's not my link. Like I said, I am not sponsored by them, but go and take a look. If you've got some money, you want to try them out, if you're frustrated because your accuracy is garbage like it is with me, then these things may actually improve your game and help you enjoy it a little bit more. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that video. If you did, slap a like on it. Subscribe to You Always Win. We're going to be doing a lot of new shooter games this fall. I'm super excited. It feels like I'm coming home again. You know what I mean? Anyway, I'll talk to you guys later.